An indicator shows the NDC will win the 2024 elections. Beyond the polls published by pollsters, our series of internal research consistently points to a one-third victory for John Dramani Mahama with a convincing working majority in Parliament. However, we are not complacent because polls alone do not confer victory on a political party in elections. Moreover, it's been said that those who vote decide nothing, but those who count the votes decide everything. We are conscious of the fact that our opponents who control the state machinery do not believe in fairness at all. That is why we are assuring Ghanaians that we will not rest. We will not tire, and we will not falter. We will not relent until every vote is cast, every vote is counted, and every vote is made to count by the Jimensa-led Electoral Commission. We will not rest until we ensure every single Ghanaian is protected. The dastardly murder of 8 Ghanaians to make Akufo-Addo president in 2020 must not be repeated in 2024. The blood of the murdered 8 shall remain a stain on the Akufo-Addo Bawumia's second term record forever. Instead of President Akufo-Addo demanding congratulations from President John Dramani Mahama, as we are picking from the media, we suggest that he must listen to his predecessor when he says he's the only person who has a predecessor who will become his successor. When President Mahama says the use of thugs and rogue elements within the security agencies to disrupt elections in some parts of the country as occurred in 2020 elections, leading to the loss of 8 lives, will forever be remembered as Ghana's day of infamy, unquote. Nana Addo must also take a cue from Mr. Mahama when he adds that it is unconscionable that 3 years after these tragic events, President Nana Akufo-Addo has not uttered even a word of sympathy to the bereaved families. Ladies and gentlemen, Nana Akufo-Addo should rather be implementing the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry, which he himself set up. We believe that those who are planning to come to our offices to invite us to participate in activities geared towards peaceful elections, signing of memoranda, and all that, the time is now.
The Electoral Commission on December 18, 2023 announced at a press conference that it will no longer use indelible inks in any elections going forward. According to the EC chair, the use of biometric verification system is sufficient in preventing double voting.
The question is, when we were not doing biometric, we were basically using your face, your card, and to look at you. We look at your face and we say, this picture looks like you. The biometric technology makes it difficult for a person who has been verified and cast their vote to come a second time. So there is no need for indelible ink, because once you have been verified, it goes into the system and you cannot come back a second.
However, the minority in Parliament opposed the decision. Member of Parliament for South Dai constituency, Roxton Nelson Dafiamekpo, explained on the floor of the House that the EC's decision breaches the law.
Mr. Speaker, the issue of the non-use of the indelible ink breaches the law. Mr. Speaker, let me refer the House to Article 51 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, with your leave, let me read. The Electoral Commission shall, by constitutional instrument, make regulations for the effective performance. Mr. Speaker, the controlling phrase there is for the effective performance of its functions under the Constitution or any other law, and in particular for the registration of voters, the conduct of public elections and referenda, including provision for voting by proxy. So, Mr. Speaker, you cannot come to Parliament with an instrument where protocols have been clearly outlined in the instrument, and you, by an administrative fiat, decide that you will go according to the protocol. Mr. Speaker, the use of indelible ink is part of the regulations that we put in the instrument for the effective performance of the Electoral Commissioner.
For the Member of Parliament for Banda and Deputy Minority Whip Ahmed Ibrahim, Parliament must be careful to pass regulation on which independent institutions like the EC will take decisions.
Discontinuation of indelible ink. And Mr. Speaker, we are together in this. The point of the discontinuation of the indelible ink was raised by the majority leader himself. And he had a serious concern that if you don't use proper indelible ink, you are going to lead, it is going to lead into some kind of unwanted chaos that you did not intend to. And therefore, we must make sure that we are able to procure a proper lasting indelible ink for voters to go through and cast their voters well. But Mr. Speaker, it was said just 2 days to the organization of the district level elections. And that is why when we said it, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission said, yes, she had taken it in good note, but it was too late. So I know, after adopting this report and approving their budget, when we are going to 2024 general elections, that provision will be catered for.
Meanwhile,
all persons connected with the conduct of elections must be held strictly accountable for their actions by instituting a stringent regime of punishment for willful wrongdoing. All categories of election workers must be familiarized with the applicable regime of sanctions during their training, and any infractions must be seen to be punished. It appears that some candidates rush to court with election petitions alleging manipulation of results, primarily to placate their financiers and supporters so that they will be given another chance to be a candidate the next time. The rush can cause undeserved injury to the reputation of the Electoral Commission and unnecessary inundation of the courts. As we speak, there are well over 1,000 election petitions before the courts in Nigeria following the 2023 elections. Yes, well over 1,000 election petitions. Some of them will not be concluded before the next election itself. To prevent the rush to court with improbable election petitions from becoming a fashion, I suggest that election petitions that do not succeed should attract punitive sanctions. In view of the importance of the judicial function in elections, I wish to recommend collaboration between the judiciary and the Electoral Commission to institute a program of continuing education for judges on elections. Such a program will improve the delivery of electoral justice, which in turn will contribute to electoral accountability and the consolidation of our democracy.
Well, the tapes we've been playing you is actually to help us set the ball rolling for what promises to be a very interesting conversation this morning with the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustafa Foyo Bande, who has a lot to share with us as far as the NDC's preparedness for the 2024 elections are concerned. And then also all the other matters that have come up, the challenges they have with the Electoral Commission. There have been issues about the district assembly elections when the NDC said they've swept most of the, of course, the persons who won were known NDC persons, and they've won most of the seats. And then also issues about an indelible link and so on and so forth. And so, Mustafa Bande, let me say a very good morning to you. And I want to thank you very much for making time to join us on Inside Pages.
Good morning.
Yeah, quite a number of issues to look at this morning, isn't it? But first of all, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm in a good shape.
Right.
I'm determined to focus on what is ahead of us, and that is 2024. And that is what I have been up and doing, up and about. I think that currently, as we speak, the country is ready for a change, and it requires that people put themselves in readiness for that change. And I think that it requires hard work, it requires commitment, it requires foresight, it requires collaboration. And as an officer of the party, that is what I believe fit within my mandate. And we've been up and about doing the same.
I noticed the thing about you personally is that you're not frontally involved in the politics. You I may be wrong, but you appear to want to work more behind the scenes. Of course, a few times we see you come into the public domain and make one or two statements, but is it about your style of politics, which is to do more of the groundwork?
Well, I don't know about that. I haven't done the assessments, but I believe that for me, I see a gap, and you must fit into that gap. And that gap is that we must work hard and be committed. We must keep the base, and we must get other people on board. I tend to think that our superiors, in terms of the other hierarchy, they have given their best to this party, served this party, and I believe as young people, when we are given privilege, we should be guided by hard work and commitment. And so if you don't work hard and you are holding a position, you are simply wasting time and also preventing other people. My belief is that the NDC is a destiny career, like just as any other political party. A lot of hopes depends on political parties. Whether you like it or not, we cannot have a church rising to be in charge of our governance. You can't have a mosque rising to be in charge of our governance. You would have political parties. And so when people vest hopes into political parties, officers of these parties must take these hopes very seriously and work hard. And so having been given the privilege to serve, I believe that 24/7, you must be up and doing what mandate you've been given. And for me, that is what it is. I have not been able to do an assessment of whether or not I'm doing a back door
or front door,
or I'm doing a front door. I'm sitting here upon your invitation to give information on behalf of the General Secretary and the party at large.
Right.
And that's what I'm here to do. I cannot tell whether that amount to
frontal politics or behind the scenes politics. Yes. I like that. But there's a certain feeling and there's a certain view that persons who are interested in the NDC politics, persons who are aligned to the NDC politics, so I talked about interested, they may not necessarily be NDC supporters, but they are persons who are, you can call them floating voters.
Yeah.
You know, they feel that the NDC is not showing sufficient hunger for power. When you compare the NDC to the MPP of 2016 and the posture of the MPP in 2016, when they made it seem as though that if the MPP does not win the 2016 elections, there was going to be Armageddon. And so there are some people who feel that it was actually part of the reasons why Ghanaians actually voted for change, because at some point Ghanaians were scared. Look, if we look at the way the MPP are talking and the way they are behaving, if we don't give this part to them, we may not have a peace of mind. There's some Ghanaians who feel they're not seeing that type of, you know, that type of attitude and character in the NDC of 2024. I don't know whether you heard this, and what do you make of it? If you agree, is it a decision to do your politics like this, or there's something that's missing that you're trying to figure out?
Yeah, so thank you very much. We've had a couple of these
sentiments
raised by individuals,
right?
But it doesn't reflect the larger opinion.
Right.
Now, the very reason why today, as we sit down, His Excellency Akufo-Addo is going home as one of the worst presidents to have ever happened to this country, and his regime would be tagged as one of the most corrupt regimes ever to have happened to our country, is because they came into power on wrong premise. A premise that we must force the systems, a premise that we must corrupt the systems, a premise that let's compromise the security structure. That is not the game plan of the NDC. The game plan of the NDC at every point in time have been that let us carry the nation along in the context of problem solving. And so if you check history, each time the NDC was in opposition and had to come to power, they came to power at the back of a solution. Here we are again. You don't need a prophet to tell you that these group of people, anything close to Akufo-Addo's name should not be allowed into governance of this country anytime soon. You don't need a prophet to tell you that. But you also know that all Ghanaians are looking up to a new set of people to bring solution. And when you are in the boardroom seeking for solution, analyzing problems, I don't think that you would want to go that way that the MPP came into 2024. If you look at what His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and party leadership is doing currently, they are touring across the country, first and foremost, to touch base with Ghanaians who are affected by the corruption, who are affected by incompetence, whose hopes are lost. We have regions where there are potentials that the government can tap in. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is consulting with these people to say, okay, teach us how do we better your lives beyond 2025. Nurses, how do we better your lives beyond 2025? If you look at cocoa growing areas, currently as we speak, cocoa bodies collapsed. How do we revive it? How do we make that sector attractive again? How do we make our fathers, our mothers who are cocoa farmers, how do we make them happy? So the NDC is coming into power, inshallah, in 2024 December, at the back of problem-solving criteria. We don't have time to be like them. They came into power with hooliganism. They came into power with noise. They came into power with deceit. They came into power with dishonesty. Yet they don't have the brains to develop. They don't have the brains to solve the problems. Look, the highest social crime would be when you jump onto a podium and give the whole nation hope, knowing within yourself that it is not true, that it was all fraud. That is what Nanadu led the MPP to do in the 2016. When they came here, and they said, oh, President Mahama have not done anything. We are coming to build. We're coming to manufacture. We're coming to produce. And when we come, we will do one village, one dam. Only for them to write it in the books. Take loans for Hawa Kumsin and His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to fail the country.
Right.
And Moro, one will ask you, have you properly analyzed the use of dams?
Right.
If we have dams in this country, what that will be used for? Currently, we import onions, we import tomatoes. Dams could substitute some agricultural activities that can produce all of these things. It will provide money, it will substitute importation, it will rebuild the economy. All this was fraud. And that was led by His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo and His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud.
So what it means is that you don't agree with those who feel that the NDC is not hungry enough for power?
We are very hungry for power.
Okay.
But within the context of respecting the boundaries and the structures and pillars of this country. Let me tell you, as I sit here, there is no one in the MPP that I'm afraid of. And when you say you don't fear somebody, it should be within the context of wrong and right. Where are you wrong and where are you right?
Okay.
I'm sitting here and haven't offended anyone. If you come and you want to attack me, I can assure you that I'll attack you in multiples of your attempts without regards to anything. But given the context of where we find ourselves, knowing that the government machinery trying to stay onto power, even though the party is fragmented along the lines of failure, along the lines of disappointment, believing that politics of today is not about issues, it's not about campaign, it's not about meeting people and getting their vote, it's about stealing. I can assure you that the entire government machinery will regret for it if they make a wrong move come December 7th.
And you mean what you're saying?
I mean what I'm saying. The entire government machinery will regret it. Whoever leads that belief that they can steal will regret it. Okay.
Let's come to the issues that you raised in that presser that was addressed by the national chairman of your party, the Honorable Johnson Asedu Nketia, where he starts to talk about the economy and, comes down to talk about the extra assembly elections, talks about indelible ink, talks about a closing time for, which are all policy proposals by the Electoral Commission, and so on and so forth. Now, what was it that you were attempting to communicate to Ghanaians with that press conference that the national chairman held? Why did you, in fact, that's actually the first press conference you've held in 2024. What's the strategy behind this? What are you trying to communicate to Ghanaians?
The essence of that,
presser,
that beautiful presser, issue-based presser addressed by the national chairman, Honorable Johnson Asedu Nketia, was to inform Ghanaians about deception. One, to also expose a criminal scheme set up within government, imposed and being championed by the Electoral Commission ahead of 2024.
Do you have any evidence to this?
Yes, we have evidence. Now, that presser was to tell Ghanaians that beyond pollsters, the recent polls by
Global Info Analytics.
Global Info suggests that this government was almost exiting power, and that it suggests that the NDC was coming into power. The MPP says no. So we're to inform Ghanaians that beyond polls, the recent district assembly election conducted throughout the country exposed government. That as we speak today, the NDC can determine where we can have presiding members to champion the agenda of the local government system and can decide where we cannot. We are fully in control of the entire grassroots political base of this country. And they know that, and we know that. Figures will show. We have won overwhelming majority. Look, even in the hometown, the constituency of the local government minister, Dan Botwe. So I wasn't surprised that he is running out of parliament. And substituting a candidate will not solve the problem. That even the fact that you are a local government minister, at the time you were still a minister and an MP in Okre constituency, where the NDC have never taken majority in that constituency as far as assembly members are concerned. As we speak, he has about 21 electoral areas or so.
In Okre, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
21 electoral areas. We've won 12.
Out of the 21?
Out of the 21. They have only 9.
Which is more than half.
Yes. Patrick Boama's constituency here, it used to be...
That's Okakwe Central.
Yes, it used to be 0 to 5. MPP had 5. NDC has 0. As we speak, we won 4. They won only 1. In the constituency of the chairman of the Council of State in Ashanti region, in his pooling, in his electoral area, the presiding member there lost to the NDC. So really you would know that Ghanaians have decided that we want a change. We do not want this criminality to continue. We do not want hot-headedness to continue in government. Government is about solving the problem of the people. It's about putting food on the table of Ghanaian. Every single Ghanaian's economy is in their pocket.
I see. Now, speaking about the district level elections, let me read to you what the chairman says. He says already, thousands of persons affiliated to the MPP have lost the district level elections.
Correct.
Yes, the MPP people have miserably lost the assembly and unit committee elections to members, supporters, and affiliates of the NDC. Sincere political watchers and analysts know this is another evidence when the government is on its way out of office.
Correct.
They know because even though the processes leading to the district level elections are non-partisan, most of the contestants and the voters are aware of where the candidates stand politically.
Right.
As an illustration, it says in Waliwali, in the Northeast region, which happens to be the constituency of the sitting vice president, the MPP flag bearer, NDC affiliates won the majority of the electoral areas. This can't be true. No, hold on. It says electoral areas 18 out of 31. In addition, in Okre, in the Eastern region, you mentioned that, where the Minister of Local Government doubles as their sitting member of parliament, the NDC members won the majority of assembly seats, 12 out of 21. Furthermore, in Esikado Ketan, in the Western region, a stronghold of the MPP, NDC members won majority of the electoral areas, 8 out of 12. Also in Ebura, Asebu, Kwamanke said that's where Felix Ofusukwache is standing. In the Central region, 24 out of 31. And in Hohoi, where the seat is legally held by the MPP with the connivance of the EC, in 2020, NDC had 12 out of 17. It was 2 out of 17 in 2019. Now, it says, attached at the regional constituency breakdown of the results of the district, and it goes on and on and on and on. And it even goes to, in fact, it mentions, it says so Ashanti and Eastern regions were also very impressive for the NDC compared to 2019 performance. Presently, even though the Electoral Commission unexpectedly postponed voting in some electoral areas in these two strong regions of the ruling MPP, NDC members and affiliates secured 34.13% and 45.52% electoral areas in Ashanti and Eastern regions. And you're saying that this is an indicator of what will happen in 2024. Help us appreciate what the correlation is. I mean, if persons who are affiliated to a party sweep overwhelmingly district assembly elections, how does that affect electoral outcomes?
So if they disagree with polls, scientific research, they cannot deny. Practical example, if a vice president loses at his backyard and he's telling you that he wants to be a president, that is deception. Again, that press conference was to address the fallout as far as that election is concerned. Mind you, it was a national election. To the extent that the Electoral Commission would have to supervise that election and ensure its mandate within transparency, credibility, the freeness and fairness of that election. We witnessed a district assembly election where the Electoral Commission for the first time is saying that there are places that we have shortages of ballot papers. Shortages of ballot papers. We have places where there are errors, in fact, on the ballot papers that were printed. There are places where the voters register that was printed were mixing figures, padded figures. We recorded that in Sunyani. There are places where Electoral Commission officials, temporal officials, were arrested trying to paddy votes, trying to, as it were, help perpetrate electoral fraud. Critical among the issues, for me, is when you have members of parliament being given military escort into the election. You have the Honorable Apenyo Makin, the MP for Ehutu, in Winneba, a supposed educated community, efficient community. You have him as a deputy majority leader. And Moro, you and I know that every member of parliament is well equipped with one police officer and a rifle and a sidearm. On that day, that 18th fateful day, Apenyo Markins was in his constituency with military officers fully armed with rifles. And I said this is a serious security infraction in an election because we have the police who have deployed police personnel across the country for the purposes of election duties. And in cases where the police have limited personnel, they have had to rely on other sister security agencies to deploy. And within that context, they were performing the duty of the police, and that is to police the election. Then a member of parliament and an appointee of the government comes into that election with the military armed with rifles. Is it what we are going to see in 2024? And as we speak, he has not been arrested. The Honorable Hawa Kumsen, Minister for Fisheries, MP for Ehutu Senya East, in her constituency, were hooligans wearing national security uniforms that they claimed responsibility of in Ayawaso West Wagon, in pickups, escorted by the constituency youth organizer, intimidating polling stations to polling stations. What was that for? And so the press conference exposed this one. And again, exposed the fact that an electoral commission, if exercising some level of professionalism, you have your timetable for an election. You have planned. You've subcontracted to vendors, printing presses to print. Of course, we know that in the context of these assembly elections, some of the printing press in the regions can do it. It is your responsibility. You have announced day of election. 12 hours to that election, the Electoral Commission didn't know that there were errors with the ballots that were printed. For me, that is the highest mark of deliberate unprofessionalism without exercising due care. So the NDC is simply saying that the 2024 election is a critical election, that we do not expect the Electoral Commission to be making such errors in the immediate election preceding or leading to a general election. We expect that this assembly election should be a dress rehearsal for the Electoral Commission.
Right.
If we still have in cases where there are security infractions, shortage of ballot papers, that is a criminal, that's a fraud. That's a deliberate attempt to ensure that people are not able to vote. And of course, that was what happened.
Okay.
So the press conference was addressing this and pointing to the fact that the Electoral Commission is not doing that alone. The Electoral Commission is doing that with the endorsement of the sitting president and his political party, aiming to steal in the next election.
But how do you know that? How do you know the Electoral Commission is condoning and conniving with the sitting president and the vice president?
So if you have an Electoral Commission who comes to tell you without any cause that I'm reducing the number of officers who will man a particular polling station from 5 to 3.
Yeah.
Where one person will have to be issuing a ballot or checking your name. It led to cases where we had, even before the election, already thumb-printed ballot boxes, ballot papers, where Electoral Commission officers were issuing this to voters. And the vigilance of the voter or the voters led to the discovery of this. We have cases where the Electoral Commission comes to tell you that I'm going to remove ink system.
Yeah, but how does this roping the president and the vice president?
Course,
so far, you've mentioned the Electoral Commission.
They have been the beneficiary of the rigging of 2020 election. Nana Akufo-Addo, President Nana Akufo-Addo.
Right.
Our president sitting today, he is enjoying a product of some alleged fraud, electoral fraud. We believe that the 2020 election was rigged. I know that. And so, having, experienced all these things, we are saying that the right things should be done.
Okay.
So Electoral Commission didn't have the power to just come up and say, I'm removing indelible ink, when the law suggests that a person who have voted should be marked and should be identified as having voted. She's talking about technology. For me, it either means the Electoral Commissioner is ignorant of the election process, or she's deliberately trying to test the resolve of Ghanaians. Moro, in the verification system, the BVD machines are, the functionality of those machines is based on internet, right? So we have places where we record, slow network, and the machines wouldn't work.
Don't they have offline BVD machines?
Correct. So when that happens, we'll go to offline.
Yes.
We use the manual verification system.
Yes.
Under the manual verification system, you would have to get somebody through the manual system and the person goes to vote.
Right.
Here we are. We have places where the Electoral Commissioner has mixed data. And don't forget that we have not synchronized the National Voter Register, such that if you vote in Accra and you run to Central Region to go and vote,
it can be detected.
It cannot be detected. So when an Electoral Commissioner is making this argument, it is so shallow, so empty, so ignorant of our electoral process. But I say that she knows about it. She's deliberately testing the pulse of Ghanaians, packing and preparing a stage to rig the election in favor of the MPP. And that is what the chairman talks about. We going to resist.
Just in case you just joined us, I'm talking to the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustafa Gbande. He's here to talk to us about some concerns that the NDC has ahead of the 2024 elections. This is Inside Pages. It's your most authoritative news and current affairs analysis show on Saturdays. It starts at 8 and ends at 10. Remember that after this conversation, we'll also be looking into the crystal balls to find out how the 2024 economy is going to look like, because we need to be able to, plan our budgets and so on and so forth. We need to know whether we should be tightening our seatbelts more, or we should be loosening it, we should be sewing bigger trousers or smaller ones. We ought to be able to know all of that. And also what the power sector is likely to look like, again, in 2024, because we're already beginning to experience some power outages here and there. We've not been comfortable with that at all. The government says it's resolved it, but there's some who are saying that, well, there's still, we're not totally out of the woods yet. And so there's a conversation to be had about the economy and the power sector. But for now, we're talking NDC matters. And in case you want to contribute to the program, it's 0249 155 646. 0249 155 646. 0249 155 646. So join the discussion with your comments and let me know what you think about some of the issues that Mustafa Gbande has raised. Now, I asked Mustafa Gbande about what he makes of the opinion that the NDC doesn't look that hungry for power. He has explained why the NDC has assumed this posture, and also two. He's also talked about the fact that the NDC is prepared to protect your vote, because as the national chairman of the NDC himself said in that presser, elections are not, in fact, outcome of elections are not determined by the persons who vote, but the persons who count. And he says the NDC is ever ready to protect your vote if you do vote for the NDC. There's quite a number of issues that we'll be looking at before we start our conversation on the economy and the power sector. Now, Mustafa, you talked about intimidation, violence. You talked about harassment of voters and so on, and you're saying that there's not going to be a repeat of that. You have actually been quoted to have said or to have submitted on another platform, media platform, that the NDC in 2024 intends to go to the polling centers with your own, I can call it, weapons. First of all, did you say that? Can you confirm you did say that? What was the context, and what were you trying to communicate?
Thank you very much, Moro, that this came up. I never said that.
Okay.
I never intended that.
Okay.
What led to this discussion was because in a synod, whilst we're in that election, Gabi Asare Ochredako and these same Apenyo Markins, who have become so recalcitrant politically, believe that they can walk into that election with military protection. This came at the back of the IGP's promise that the Asynod by-election was going to be lethal free. If you remember, all MPs, bodyguards, weapons were withdrawn because he says that the election was going to be free and fair and that it had to be lethal free. Woke up on the day of election and Gabi Asare Ochredako and Apenyo Markins walked into election polling stations with military officers armed with a rifle. Having that, and I have the evidence, that's one side. That this assembly election, Apenyo Markins didn't have a right, he didn't have any authority to be moving with a military officer or military officers with weapons and intimidating people in his constituency, and that was what exactly happened. Our Kumsi's incidents I have explained. So I said that in that contest, if the IGP will not effect an arrest such that people have become more powerful to commit security infractions in an election and go scot-free, what it means is that our polling stations will no longer be safe for you to go without protecting yourself. Only for Asasi Radio, the radio station owned by Gabi Asare Ochredako, to pick it afterwards, throw it to the MPP communication, and then this pollster, what is this? Ben Efson's paper, just picked it, dumped it on the paper, and of course, Daily Guide. So they had their own set of questions they've set for me and answered in their papers. I didn't say that, and I never said that. If you listen to the audio, you see it very clear that what happened was a twist of what I've said. They tried to draw or attract negativity towards me, but that will not cover the responsibility that 2024 election will be free and fair. NDC has a wound, and we have scars from the 2020 elections. And no single member of the NDC will sit down for anybody within this government to engage security forces outside the legal structures that we have to intimidate anybody, to harm anybody. You heard the defense minister 2 days ago in his constituency assuring his people that he will deal with his own MPP member just as he will deal with the NDC. What does that mean? Is it not a threat? And this is not a mean person. And he was being hailed behind as the commander, the lion of the army. If a defense minister says this, we don't have the right to defend ourselves. If you are in your house and a criminal comes to that house to come and rob you, you will go and take a Bible because Akufo-Addo is in power. You sat here and 8 people were killed needlessly, and you want a repetition of that? Hell no. No single individual, no single voter will be harmed in the 2024 election. Moro, this is the first time you will see that voters will bring their beds and mattresses and sleep at polling centers until their votes have been counted.
Interesting. Finally, before you go, and that's my final question to you, what's the situation with the running mate issue? Because some say it's taking a bit of time. Educate us on how the NDC usually goes about choosing its running mate. And, is it true that the party is divided as to whether to go with Professor Jane or not to go with Professor Jane? There are other names that have come up and so on. What's happening?
Let me first remark that the NDC can win the election on the strength of President Mahama alone, as we stand, and the party. He can. And we are going to win the election. Now, with the issue of running mates, it is good that people are showing interest. And for me, it reflects how the party have grown to this end, that we have individuals who are capable of becoming presidents, vice president. So it means that any succession plan within the NDC is not a difficult task. Number two, having shown an ambition, it is subjected to scrutiny and some sort of consultation.
Okay.
So the flag bearer who would have to look for a wife, and that wife is a running mate, that person is an individual who understands the president, that the president believes can help him champion his mandate as a president. The president believes that they are compatible enough to be able to deliver the promises that he makes to the nation.
Okay.
That this person is competent enough to stand in the gap for him anytime he's not around.
Okay.
So that becomes a sole responsibility of the president to do that,
okay.
the flag bearer to do that. Now, the flag bearer will have to consult with the structures of the party, consult with interest groups
okay.
to make sure that the same attraction that he has as a flag bearer is given to whoever is selected as a running mate. It goes through processes.
Okay.
And when that process is completed, one person will certainly be chosen. Now, Moro, the most important element of this discussion is that the entire party is willing to stand by the choice of the flag bearer.
Okay.
That is very important that we must drive home.
Right.
That whoever emerge as the running mate, the party will support. At some instances, I wish that I could become the running mate as well. But there are people who feel that I'm too hot-headed for now. So I can't be a running mate.
Okay.
The others who feel that they have the experience and requisite skill. The others who are showing regional permutations. It is all subjected to some sort of discussion. And at the end of the day, someone will be chosen, not because that person is better than other people.
Okay.
But when you look at what pairs the president properly, then you can say that a vice president or a running mate have been chosen. So soon,
wonderful.
I think next quarter, the flag bearer will be naming.
We should be looking at before June.
For June, he will be
year.
naming his running mate.
Okay.
I hope.
Okay.
Then we will be gone with this discussion. But I believe that, look.
But is there pressure? You personally,
no,
you're getting,
no, there's no
you're getting
pressure.
calls?
There's no pressure. My responsibility as a deputy general secretary, and I suppose my boss is doing the same, is to move the party into victory.
Okay.
And that is exactly we are doing.
Thank you very much, Mustafa Bandi, for joining us. It's been wonderful talking to you. And, I wish you the best of luck. You've been working very hard, to be honest. And, I hope that the party folks can actually see and attest to that.
Well, they don't need to see.
Well, they have.
In my heart, I have to satisfy that I'm working hard first. And once I'm working hard, I think that they will definitely see. And I think that at the end of the day, when we win power, one, it's a just cause.
Right.
The country will be free.
Okay.
People will rest. Party people will be happy.
Okay.
And for me, I believe that that is a cause that we must be pursuing.
Okay. All right. Mustafa, thank you so very much.
Thank you,
Have a wonderful
day.
So Mustafa Bandi is the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. He came through this morning to talk to us about some NDC matters. I hope you enjoyed it.